even though he's also a fucking monster. Classic case. So, yeah, there wasn't anything super new there. Obviously, nothing we haven't heard of thus far. Normal stuff. He farted again. Okay, stop it, dude. What?
They said, he's on a generational run. It's a generational. Very weird and fawning and pathetic. You want a generational run? Here's a generational run for you. Ready?
Get farted on, idiot. I just did. I just got dookied on.
For sure, the girls talk them into stuff. But now we have emails of a different side of the scheme. It says, yesterday I spoke to Daniel Syed, who Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout or recruiter of girls or women for Jeffrey Epstein. Attached to this incoming email from Brunel is the contact information he has for Syed. And then they blacked out his number and email. But digging into Jeffrey's emails with Daniel shows that he was constantly sending him links to girls. It shows Jeffrey Epstein paying Daniel 3,000 euros, which, to be clear, was the amount that was agreed to by Jean-Luc Brunel. Quote, Dominique, we will pay him 3,000 euros each month for scouting for a 6-month period. On all models we will get him, we will pay him 5% commission on their earnings. Imagine it's like baseball or it's like basketball. You're scouting for, I hate to use the word talent, but that's really what this guy was doing. He was going around the globe trying to find people for Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. According to one lawsuit, Epstein trafficked a Jane Doe to Jean-Luc Brunel many times. It describes their operation as this. Many of the girls came from poor countries or impoverished backgrounds. He lured them in with a promise of making good money. Quote, Brunel has been a model scout for various modeling agencies for many years, and he was apparently able to get U.S. passports for young girls to work as models, eventually, of course, being sent to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it should be noted that Jean-Luc Brunel himself died in prison by hanging, and that's while he was being accused of horrible crimes related to trafficking and minors. So this guy is not a good guy. He was part of the op, along with Daniel Syed, who was
Maybe that's why Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, because he got sad. Because his best friend also killed himself under very similar circumstances. Have you ever thought about that? No, I guess not.
Also scouting on behalf of Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel. They had their agreement. Here's a sample of how this would work. Jeffrey Epstein asked him to take a full body shot of someone. Daniel Syed says, now she is really skinny, I will do Polaroid. Jeffrey Epstein asks for a copy of her passport and then asks, how many tickets do you want for Woody, meaning Woody Allen? He says 2. Okay, thank you. Full body if possible. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, doesn't look too happy. Comments on her body, and then he says she is very sweet. I'll skip a few of the sordid details here. They comment about her body extensively. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, I sent a request. Does she want to come out to Paris on Sunday? He says, I will invite to come. And this is basically how it worked. Daniel Syed flew around the world looking for women, sending photos to Jeffrey Epstein, who then would get a copy of their passports and bring him to the States. Here's an example of this. Daniel Syed brings him a girl. They didn't redact this name, but I'm going to do it. He says, very nice, easygoing, dream to work in the United States or visit the United States working as a model in Dubai. He asks age. Daniel says 22 or 23. I forgot to ask her. She looks younger. I have her number if you want to call her. She was going to send this evening. And this happens over and over. At one point, he talks about a Thai actress. Jeffrey Epstein says he can see her on Wednesday, and then he complains that she...
It's pretty wild that so many people try to keep up the facade that Jeffrey Epstein was, either like a sex criminal in his own might and had nothing to do with the client list or the social elite that he was consistently surrounding himself with, or even my favorite take. And I did not know this, but there's a Destiny take out there who is, because he's consistently wrong. He's on the wrong side of every fucking argument for some goddamn reason. He also apparently talked about the Epstein stuff back in the day on the Iced Coffee podcast, where he quite literally said, oh, it's whatever. It's just like a rub and tug. Like Jeffrey Epstein was like maybe getting rub and tugs for his friends, and it's not that big of a deal. Overwhelming majority are of age. Some might have been like a little bit underage. And it's not the end of the world. Like something along those lines, which is insane.
Wants to meet in a restaurant. I don't do that in New York. And then says she didn't even respond. Not nice. The point is, a lot of these girls were looking to come to the United States for one reason or another, for some kind of dream. They would ask for passports or visas, and then ultimately get sent here by this network of people who would later be accused of trafficking or other abuses. Now, to be clear, there have not been charges against Daniel Syed, and the government, remember, says they have no evidence to go even predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So it's a little bit bizarre to be reading about this scouting operation for Jeffrey Epstein, the way he recruited girls, and then be told, yeah, nothing to see here. Yeah, one of the scouts was like this, like, who himself in jail. But no, there's no one else here, even though there's definitely guys floating around. Even though we literally have redacted defendants in our old draft of an indictment. We have nothing to do. We can't possibly imagine.
No co-conspirators. No co-conspirators. Come on, stop. Don't look into that. Todd Blanche said it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein, when it quite literally is. Okay, it is. Oh, this is the old Matt Iglesias Actually, it's a Phoebophilia defense. Do you take on Epstein on Iced Coffee Hour?
What he does.
I want to know about Jeffrey Epstein.
What about him? What a disappointment. My God.
You have all the answers, right? To Jeffrey Epstein?
Here's what happened. Here's what people wanted there to be. People think that there are a bunch of politicians, billionaires that are raping kids all day long, and they love that theory. It's just such a fun, awesome theory. Hillary Clinton was involved in it. Bill Clinton was involved in it. Prince Andrew, all the billionaires, they're all okay. And then when a story like this comes out, yes, you finally, okay, QAnon, the pizza shop, everything is coming together, okay? This is it. The child billionaire politician sex rape ring, finally. And I think what probably actually happened was you had a billionaire guy like Epstein, who was a pervert, who paid off a ton of girls, not even the majority of them, a minority of them were underage, to come over, give him massages, maybe give his friends massages, and sometimes jerk him off. But the vast majority of it was probably legal. The majority of it probably weren't minors. There were a few that were. I think 2 confirmed, only 2. And he just, like, sometimes he would, like, send girls to go and, like, rub and tug his fucking friends or whatever. And that's it.
Do you think that any of it could have been for blackmail?
No. Absolutely.
How is this man? First of all, only 2 child rapes or whatever is a crazy argument. Okay? Just a little bit of child rape on the side, only 2. Great. Great argument, okay? But overall, it is quite remarkable how he is so consistently on the fucking wrong side. Like, he is notoriously wrong. I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. Is it the contrarian brain or whatever? I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because he's, like, constantly presenting himself as, like, in opposition to whatever I'm presenting, and then he, unfortunately for him, ends up running into this issue because I happen to be right, and then he, by definition, happens to be wrong. It's just pretty funny. This is from a couple years prior, by the way. I just saw a clip of this.
I won't say absolutely not, but right now there is 0 evidence whatsoever of that at all. And the idea
This is bullshit. I wonder if his position has evolved since then, but it's just very, very interesting. Let's get back to it.
Anything. And that brings me to one of the frustrating parts of these whole files is the redactions. I mean, I know I've been over this, but it's a different thing. In the past, the files were sort of overly redacted to protect people. The problem this time is not only are a lot of people still being protected, like literally the names of the people they were going to charge, you couldn't argue those are victims, but the work with
Ethan Klein on Piers Morgan? Shut the fuck up. Are you joking?
We're here to...
What if went to storm a synagogue? Benny Johnson versus Ethan Klein on Don Lemon? Epstein and Ice? Wait. Please don't tell me that Ethan Klein got dunked on by fucking Benny Johnson. My heart can't stand that. That's too much. Ain't no fucking way. I hope he was able to put together a decent argument here. Anyway, we'll maybe take a look at it later.
It's done so sloppy that oftentimes you'll find that the DOJ has uploaded 2 documents that are functionally identical, and they redacted one but not the other, letting you see what's ultimately behind the mask, which is dumb because sometimes the thing they're redacting is Jeffrey Epstein's name. Or other times it's somebody who clearly is not a victim, because then you see the non-redacted copy and you're like, yeah, that's clearly not a victim. So it's a little strange what they seem to have done here. Let me give you a for instance. So we have this message from somebody whose name is blacked out, and we see participants, and then we see Jeffrey Epstein is involved, right? And it says, we need to work around your 38. We need to push back on the lies, then crush the pedo trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist. Now, I want to know who's doing that. Who's trying to rebuild Jeffrey Epstein's image?
Steve Bannon, even in certain instances, might have even been Noam Chomsky as well, who said something similar to that. Maybe not under those certain terms, but something along those lines. It was pretty fucking devastating to see and read that. Alan Dershowitz is another one. I mean, there are so many. Jeffrey Epstein was surrounded by people who are fairly aware of his sex crimes and were totally on board with it and took it to lengths that you wouldn't believe. They wanted to defend it. They normalized, justified, and defended it. And yeah, just a monstrous group of individuals.
Well, we go ahead, we scroll down, and we see that Jeffrey Epstein sends something. He says, in any bar where drinking age is 18, and you see the participant is once again blacked out. But underneath it, in a separate file, we see Steve Bannon, a famous political figure, is in here, and he's saying the same thing. He says, first, we need to push back on the lies, then crush the trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as a philanthropist. Guys, why did you censor out his name? Or like, why was that censored at all? I don't understand. And I certainly don't understand why Jeffrey Epstein's name in this one is censored. So Jeffrey's not censored in this one, but Bannon is. And then
you see, you don't understand. He's a victim. That's what it is. How are they so incompetent, bro? They literally did not redact some of the victims' names. I cannot believe it. It is unbelievable. They did not redact some of the victims' names, and then they ended up redacting, once again, the names of Steve Bannon and numerous other people who are very clearly co-conspirators. It's just, half of it is fuck-ups, half of it must be by design. I do think that, like, the lack of redactions for some of the victims is almost to, like, punish the victims, I assume. I don't know. It don't make no sense.
It's not censored in this one, and Epstein is. And sometimes this creates the bizarre impression that they are censoring for victim names or for some like kind of victim status or for some reason. And then you see the other file and you're like, wait, why did you do this? It's just very poorly done throughout. That's just something I wanted to comment on, is not only did they once again not fully redact things because they were sloppy, but also like victims' names got stuck in this. Like girls' names appear sometimes, and like I'm not sure, are they supposed to be redacted? Because they're redacted over here, they're not over here. I can kind of figure out who it is. It's just kind of a mess. I needed to point that out. You know, other times we have things like this, like Brock Pierce, a co-founder of Tether, also known as the biggest stable coin in the world. He sent a message to Jeffrey Epstein with the subject line Anastasia, and then it's just a bunch of redacted stuff with a few untitled JPEGs in here. And so, you know, you're thinking to yourself, what is this? Is he sending some illicit media? Like, what is this? Well, then we have this page where it wasn't redacted. I put that little dark square that I didn't know if this should have been redacted or not. But it's like a bunch of JPEGs. Now, does that contain victims? Is Brock Pierce sending photos of victims? I don't know because of the way the government did this. But underneath, it says, the Ukraine is now my favorite country, smiley face, Brock Pierce, with the subject line Anastasia. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just saying the redactions, like the way they did this is not good. But now
we've brought this up already, but it is truly remarkable that like at least in European countries, the people that are involved with Jeffrey Epstein in any capacity are actually unironically getting punished right now. Maybe not the super wealthy, but at least like the politicians are. And you know for a fucking fact that not a single American politician can be touched Not a single.
Turn to Steve Bannon and his "we're gonna crush the trafficking" narrative, because this guy, oh boy, has been revealed in the files to being like Jeffrey's right-hand PR man. I mean, this guy was filming basically a documentary about Jeffrey Epstein in order to rehabilitate his image. And some of it has actually leaked to the public. It's been interesting to watch how that's been received. But the funny thing is that originally Jeffrey Epstein's plan was to just do a YouTube video, like an apology, like a old school 2016, turn on the camera for authenticity. And
Respect. Yeah, that'll do it. Totally. That'll fucking do it. Bust out the ukulele, baby. Fuck it.
You know, he says, do you think...
Let's be real, dude. If Jeffrey Epstein didn't fucking die when he did, and if he just held out for a little bit longer, he could have become a legend in the right. I mean, post-mortem, there is this legendary status that he is arriving at for some weird fucking reason amongst the pedophilic neo-Nazi right now. But if he was alive right now and he was like, I hate woke, I hate the wokes, I'm Mr. Anti-Woke, he 100% would have his image rehabilitated, and people would talk about how fucking based he is. People would be talking about how awesome he is and how it's dope to do sex crimes to children. Okay? Jeffrey Epstein's biggest failure was that he died before he could have just done a right-wing pivot. Straight up. I mean, look at Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is like small fry Jeffrey Epstein.
I can do my own video interview and upload it to YouTube. No sandbagging, interview format, or like a diary piece. Steve Bannon says if you do an interview, it can't be like Johnny does a YouTube. It has to be amazingly professional and perfectly cut. Then Jeffrey Epstein responds, Woody, we assume Woody Allen, because they were close, said he would help edit. Not sure how to stage, what points to make. But better than trying to do an interview that I have no experience doing. Goal is to humanize the monster. Anything written carries little weight, to which Steve Bannon replies, yes, Jeffrey Epstein. Should it be an interview format, interviewed by me? They start talking about, like, how do we do this? Humor, apology, how did I get rich? Question mark, topics. They're brainstorming. How do we trick the public into seeing me as...
He would definitely go on Rogan. Brother, Jeffrey Epstein has spiritually gone on Rogan because piece by piece, the amount of people his dick has been inside of that have gone on Joe Rogan has basically made it so that Jeffrey Epstein has been on Joe Rogan himself. Okay? Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk, so many other billionaires and you know, adjacent characters. I mean, fucking Mark Zuckerberg. He even had a shorter relationship with Mark Zuckerberg, but he was apparently around Mark Zuckerberg as well. Considering that, I mean, dude, I feel like the Joe Rogan Experience is basically a network where Joe goes and finds Joe goes and finds Epstein's besties to bring onto the show. Yeah, Lawrence Krauss, Steven Pinker, Elon Musk, Peter Attia, Peter Thiel, Donald Trump. This doesn't even scratch the fucking surface. Virtually every single person.
More than a monster. Now, funny enough, right before this, Jeffrey Epstein asks about a dinner with Woody, and then he says, or too many pedos in one place. And you gotta love the self-awareness there. Now, I don't know what he meant by that. To be clear, I'm not making that accusation against Woody Allen. We'll talk about him in a second. That's Jeffrey Epstein saying that. I think what's interesting to point out, though, is how all these rich and powerful people are circling the wagons to try to protect Jeffrey Epstein's reputation, right? This is a guy who at this point has been known for years to have pled guilty to these 2008 charges. This was an open secret. And so Steve Bannon goes along though anyways, and he films this documentary. Now what's interesting is he starts talking about the documentary and he starts saying, I'm watching our second hour now. Guys were blown away. I didn't think it was as strong at the time, but I was wrong. Need huge part about threat of AI versus reality, threat of climate change. And this is where the notes start going back and forth of how can we get you to think of other things? So part of the conceit of this big interview of Jeffrey Epstein was to try to humanize him and actually present him as this genius, everyman, quirky guy with a...
Yeah, this was the express purpose of Steve Bannon's quote-unquote deposition, which he changed after the fact, post-mortem. It was to gear him up and do PR for Jeffrey Epstein when they knew that the international sex trafficker stuff was coming back to light.
Few flaws, right? They knew they couldn't run away from the crimes. To quote, in Bannon's words, yes, 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 of course, but we must counter rapists who traffics in female children to be raped by world's most powerful, richest men. That can't be redeemed. Can't redeem the unredeemable. You are a lot of things which we will show, but you are not that. Bannon is aware that, like, they can't fully embrace the Epstein thing. They have to kind of make it about more than that. And if you see the YouTube clip going around, that's what that is. And it's been so interesting to watch the reaction because you see, even for people who've been prepped with the idea that this is basically propaganda, some of them still fall for it. They post things like, oh, cat.
Yes. Yes. Talking about the Rockefellers over and over again. I listened to the interview. I listened to big parts of the interview this morning. And people are picking apart bits and pieces of it, but it is, you know how I say money has never been more fake than it is at this point in time? Humans have never been more cattle than at this point in time. Okay. I swear to God, a fucking medieval peasant is less cattle than the average American person. We are maxed out on being cattle.
Is casually confirming the world's conspiracies because he's talking about 2008. But guys, that's the whole deception. They're like trying to be like, hey, this guy, this horrible monster, he's going to tell you the secrets of the inside club. So you think more, that's the whole thing. That's how they're getting away with this. It's not some kind of, oh, he happened to want to talk about this. This is all premeditated. This has gone through revisions. They even called Jeffrey Epstein the smartest guy in the room.
Look, you're the smartest guy in the room, right? You know that.
It's honestly ridiculous anyone believes the false conceit of, you're obviously the smartest man in the room. You could tell.
Jeffrey Epstein, and I say this sincerely, is not the smartest guy in any room, okay? There are points in this interview where he is so up his own fucking asshole that he says, unironically, yeah, you know what? Plato and Socrates never actually wrote. Writing is actually bad. It's bad for your brain. It causes you to narrow your focus. He said that because he's fucking illiterate and he's coping. In some of the rooms he was in, the other pedophile elite, maybe? No. He's an exceptionally dumb person.
The world's secrets. I mean, this guy, honestly, he talks about some of his engagements, like with the Rockefeller board, and he tries to say that owning a calculator is why he got that.
It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator, where it could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply.
That's not what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to say that, like, you can't really calculate reputation, and he had reputation, and he was of good stock.
Multiply for you to do square roots, and that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations. Places like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we're entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced, it was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board, potentially sit on the finance committee?
So we're honestly supposed to believe that Jeffrey Epstein got into this prestigious Rockefeller board because he had a calculator, but also that he's the smartest guy in the room, the smartest.
Okay, maybe I'm pretty sure he then moves on from the calculator to talk about his reputation and why, beyond the calculations that he was able to do because he knew how to use a fucking Texas Instrument at the time when apparently no one knew. He talks about his reputation, and he talks about how he comes from good stock, and that's the reason why they hired him on the board. It's bullshit. All of it is bullshit.
Man on Wall Street. And let's not talk about those horrific crimes he committed because, you know, he's not really such a bad guy after all. But it wasn't just Steve Bannon that was trying to humanize or giving advice on how to humanize Epstein. It was also Richard Branson, the famous billionaire. He was caught emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Dear Jeffrey, it was really nice seeing you yesterday. The boys in water sports can't stop speaking about it. Anytime you are in the area, would love to see you as long as you bring your harem." I don't know, that's not that ambiguous, guys. I think we can imagine what that means, but anyway.
God damn. I mean, that's expected, but it's so funny that it's like, God damn, dude.
He says, one, I think if Bill Gates was willing to say that you've been a brilliant advisor to him, that you slipped up many years ago by sleeping with a 17-and-a-half-year-old and were punished for it, that you've more than learned your lesson and have done nothing that's against the law since. And yes, as a single man, you have a penchant for women, but there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, something along those lines. He's giving him PR advice. How to get your reputation back. Hey, Jeffrey, privately, I loved you. You can come back anytime with your harem. Jeffrey Epstein responds, nice seeing you. Thanks for your hospitality. I appreciate your public relations thoughts. Now, according to the New York Times, a Branson representative said the two had a business meeting and stressed the women were adults and had not attended the meeting. All above board. That's what everyone says, by the way. Remember what Elon Musk said, right? That's the playbook. Admit nothing, deny everything. Speaking of, remember Howard Lutnick, who we showed on video saying that he had never seen Epstein since 2005.
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Although also calling him the greatest blackmailer ever.
This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Well, also according to the Times, Lutnick said he spent zero time with him, even though there are emails basically to the contrary, where Epstein is saying, nice seeing you after the conviction. I mean, these people, not only are they lying, they won't even admit when they've been caught lying. But now let's talk about Prince Andrew, too, who was caught lying over a woman at some kind of a party. I mean, just not a good, this is not doing you any favors, you know. I know Prince Andrew soon will probably be on the comeback tour. It's going to be a bunch of highly paid PR execs. Maybe Steve Bannon can jump in, shoot another 5-hour podcast trying to rehabilitate him. Like, Prince Andrew, what's the secret behind the royal family?
Look, you're the smartest guy in the room.
But again, has he admitted anything? Has he denied?
Okay, I'm going to admit something. In a room where Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew are together, that's the one room where Jeffrey Epstein is the smartest guy in the room. I take it back. We found a room. If there's one guy who's just as pedophilic, but even fucking dumber than Jeffrey Epstein, it's Prince Andrew.
Everything. Now, we should also probably talk about Noam Chomsky as well, the guy behind the book Manufacturing Consent, which in hindsight, maybe we should have suspected something. But either way, he also...
No. Look. I need everyone to fucking take a deep breath here. Okay? Because I've been seeing some people that I have a lot of respect for say crazy stuff on the timeline. I'm not going to name names, but I've seen people say crazy shit on the timeline. First of all, there's the Parenti-Chomsky rivalry, right? The MLs who hate Chomsky, who are like, I told you so, pure vindication. You guys are ridiculous. Okay, calm down. Then there's also the other side of the story where people are kind of defending old Noam. Okay? Saying like, I forgive him. Things like that. Which is even wilder because no, this is like unforgivable. Having said that, I think his work still stands on its own. And it's a totally separate construct from who he is as a person or who he became as a person later on in his life or who he might have been all along. Okay? And I say this as someone who obviously has criticism of Noam Chomsky, but someone who also has a lot of respect for his work as well. Okay? Noam is your Kanye? No. There is no. I will never, under no circumstance, will I ever fucking defend this shit. Are you insane? Like guys, one of the worst aspects of this, aside from the fact that he had a deep embedded relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, was that he also had a deep relationship with Steve Bannon, seemingly, which was fucking insane. And not only that, but when people asked him, back when he was capable of responding to every fucking email that he got, he defended it. Okay? It's irredeemable through and fucking through. I'm just saying it doesn't touch like some of his earlier work. It doesn't, like, if you're making a post hoc justification for why it sucks, then you're wrong. If you have an issue with the way you interpret like manufacturing consent or, Profit Over People, all these other books that he's written, and that's one thing. But if you're saying like, oh, well, he's a pedophile, so all of his previous work is like completely irrelevant, well, then no, you're wrong on that. Not defending Chomsky, but did you know that Epstein was a pedophile creep? You are literally looking at correspondence between Jeffrey Epstein and Noam Chomsky right now, where Noam Chomsky is offering lines of defense to Jeffrey Epstein about the pedophilia. Yes, he knew. Yes. Okay, yes, he knew. He knew. He fucking knew. Come on. This is in the year 2019 of our holy Lord, okay? February 23rd, 2019. This is when like the relitigation was taking place. Come on. Yes, he has internet. He absolutely has internet. He used to respond to every fucking email ever sent to him. He has the most amount of internet.
Some reputational advice to his buddy Jeffrey Epstein. He says, I watched the horrible way you've been treated by the press and public. It's painful to say, but I think the best way to proceed is to ignore it. When the vultures dearly want is a public response, which then provides a public opening. In general, I think it's best not to react unless directly questioned, particularly in the current mood. That's the best advice I can think of. No. Now, he sends that to Matthew Hiltzik of Hiltzik Strategies, who is a also famous PR guy, I guess, trying to help Epstein, I assume, who responds, I think that is wise. Now, later talking with Bannon, Epstein loops in Hiltzik again. He says, Matt Hiltzik thought your idea was epic. Hypocrisy of the liberal left. And he says, yep, he would confidentially like to sit and help if you like. This is Matthew Hiltzik. A lot of powerful people basically were bending over backwards, left, right, center, trying to rehabilitate this guy's image. And the question is, why? Why were all these guys so interested in their precious Jeffrey Epstein if they had no involvement? I mean, that's the part I can't figure out it, because all of them deny it. All of them don't admit anything. And so what exactly is the problem? But now it's time to talk about Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk. He was also in the files. Jeffrey was copied on an email talking about Kimball's 40th birthday, where the password to the secret party was riot. And then in all caps, Boris, the sender of this email, says, I am not joking about the password. This was in 2012 in September. And now that's important because a little bit later, Kimball Musk is emailing Boris Nikolic and Jeffrey Epstein, and he's talking to them about being connected with some redacted name and saying, I believe you both played a role, whatever that means. Now, whether this was at the party or right after their meeting in October, I don't know. But what's interesting is Boris responds and says, Kimball, just FYI, you better be nice to redacted. Jeffrey goes crazy when someone mistreats his girls/friends, so better be very nice to her. Kimball Musk responds, message received, wide and clear. Then he says, seriously, I'm very happy with my time so far with Jennifer. She's great. Now, again, was that supposed to be a redacted name we just read? Like, I don't know. They've been redacting it in earlier emails. Then all of a sudden you just get Jennifer. I can't really figure that out. But what I can figure out is that a little while later, a few days later, Jeffrey Epstein gets an email. Now, we know Kimball credits the meetup and says Boris and Epstein were responsible in some way for this. But now Jeffrey Epstein's being emailed about Jen's schedule. Is that Jennifer? I mean, it seems like it because Jen's schedule for the rest of the year, and it seems like the assistant has copy and pasted Jen's response because she says, Sue, these would be dates in November, and then starts saying, this. She can go to New York. She says the 29th to the 7th, she's free. Kimball to New York. Then she says Kimball, Jen, London. Kimball, Jen, London to Morocco, question mark. Then she has a break, and then it's Jen, Kimball, St. Bart's. Assuming we're not sick of each other by the end of November. Now, I can't figure out why is she running this schedule about when she's hanging out with Kimball, who Jeffrey set her up with. Like, why is she running this by Elon Musk? To be clear, I don't know. You know, there could be, I guess, innocent explanations for this. Maybe, I don't know. But all I see are constant, powerful people either being introed to girls, talking about the harem, talking about beautiful ladies, and the FBI, they can't figure it out. They have no...
If you've been in here, for years, you've already heard me talk about Kimball Musk, Elon Musk's brother. Every time Elon Musk talked about Jeffrey Epstein, I said, hey, fun fact, or maybe not so fun fact, but Kimball Musk is deeply connected to Jeffrey Epstein because he was dating one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. And, you know, the truth will eventually prevail. Well, now we have more evidence for it. There you go. God knows why Elon was running his fucking mouth when he was this connected, though. I didn't know he was this directly connected.
What? No evidence to even investigate third parties. Why? I guess because they're rich and powerful. Around the world, we're seeing resignations. We're seeing people lose their status. But here in the United States, we've got like multiple presidents in the files. We've got the world's richest man in the files, several of the world's richest men in the files, and we just can't drum up any kind of evidence. It's just incredible to me. Now, I also want to talk about another rich and powerful person, and that is Peter Attia. He's a podcast bro. He's a longevity expert. And actually, funny enough, I read his book. And that's going to come into play here in a second because, oh boy, did I get some additional context. But let's start here with something that Peter Attia sent Jeffrey Epstein. He says, subject, got a fresh shipment. And then Epstein responds, me too. And there's a completely redacted image. Is that a girl? Or is this bad redactions? You know, we don't know, although we'll find out in a second because later Peter responded to this. But Peter says, please tell me you found that picture online. Jeffrey responds, got a fresh shipment. Afraid not. Peter responds, you know the biggest problem with becoming friends with you. The life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. Why, Peter? Why can't you tell a soul? Why don't you tell us now? Now that it's all out in the open, why don't you tell us why you can't tell a soul the secrets or the life that Epstein leads? And then we get another redacted photo, right? And then some more images, and Peter says, please tell me that's not where you actually are. And Jeffrey says, you can see the gym in the middle, just me and 4. And Peter says, I think you might have a more interesting life than the Dos Equis guy. Is this off the coast of France? No, it's my...
The Dos Equis guy. To add insult to injury, these guys are also ginormous fucking goobers, bro. Like, I know that's not the main point here, but they're unimaginable fucking goobers. They're whole ass losers, man. Gooberville, Arkansas.
Island in the Caribbean near St. Thomas. If you go to the Google Earth and type in Little St. James. Beautiful. Isn't that nice? Behind closed doors, it's beautiful. In public, you know, we'll hear about what a monster this guy is, right? But behind closed doors, when nobody's watching, oh, it's beautiful. There's some other stuff Peter Attia said, which I'm not going to get into. I don't think it's very, appropriate for medical professionals to be saying such things. But
he talks about eating pussy and how many calories it is, right?
This wasn't all business, right? This wasn't just doctor-patient kind of stuff. There's a lot of guy talk, a lot of banter between the fellas about ladies. And maybe that's why Peter Attia says that hopefully Jeffrey Epstein is in town when I'm back in 2 weeks. I go into Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal when I don't see him. So guys, these two were close. I mean, apparently so close that, Peter Attia goes into withdrawal when he doesn't see him. Peter Attia says, are you on island? Jeffrey Epstein says, P Beach, probably Palm Beach. And he says, what do you do when you get there? Jeffrey Epstein, guess. Peter Attia, besides that, I mean, they're not even trying to hide it, guys. This is barely code at this point.
It's
you know,
never
what do
code.
you do? Guess. Well, besides that, you know, Jeffrey, we know what you do, right? So it's so funny that the FBI's like, we don't know. We can't tell what's out there. We have no evidence, right? No evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties and then proceed to dump on us a ton of evidence, at least to investigate, right? I'm not saying these people are guilty. Obviously, all of them deny, don't admit, blame other people, say other people are responsible for everything. So that is taken as a given. I am not accusing anyone here. I'm just saying, seems like we got a few leads here, fellas. Some people to look at. Now, I want to address the fact that Peter Attia has actually responded to this whole debacle. He says the following email is what I sent my team last night. I sent a similar version to my patients as well. You put your trust, your credibility, your hard work, what we built together, and I take that responsibility seriously. You deserve a complete and honest account of what did and did not happen. I apologize, I did not get this out sooner. I wanted to be thorough. He says, I was not involved in any criminal activity. My interactions had nothing to do with his abuse or exploitation of anyone. I was never on his plane, never on his island, never present at any parties. That said, I apologize and regret putting myself in a position where emails, some of them embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible, are now public. So it's this apology. You know, he addresses some of the things, and he says that some of it's just banter, right? Like I said, it's just guy talk, whatever that means. He claims that his Got a Fresh shipment was in reference to a photograph of bottles of metformin, and then Jeffrey responded with a photograph of an adult woman. I responded with crude, tasteless banter. He says one line in that exchange about his life being outrageous and me not being able to tell anyone is being interpreted as awareness of wrongdoing. That's not how I meant it at all. What I was referring to poorly and flippantly was the discretion commanded by those socials and professional circles. The idea you don't talk about who you meet. I don't know, Peter. This seems like revisionist history a little bit. I mean, personally, to me, as I'm viewing this, you know, third hand, right? Just from the outsider perspective. Now, Peter says he did ask Jeffrey about his 2008 conviction, because all this happened afterwards, right? He characterized it as prostitution-related charges. In 2018, I learned that this was grossly minimized. I was incredibly naive to believe him, and then later explains that in 2018, November, he read the Miami Herald investigative article, told him he needed to accept responsibility for what he did, and said he even asked Epstein to provide therapy to Epstein.
I guess there's no emails of that stuff, huh? What a sad state of affairs that the only emails that exist is him glazing Jeffrey Epstein for pedophilia. Guys. When I found out, I was like, oh, how dare you, sir? You just haven't seen me say that. And oh, well, it was in private and now the guy's dead. So you can't even ask him.
These victims, which is an interesting approach to have here. Now, the funny thing is, there are some more emails between Peter Attia that we need to read. Because remember that he said he read this 2018 article from the Miami Herald. I believe it's this one by Julia K. Brown in November 28th. It's about Jeffrey Epstein assembling a large cult-like network of underage girls. But in December, Peter Attia says, home is very good, work stressful, making some changes. He asks him, what's the fallout from the recent story? Apparently talking about the Miami Herald. Now, maybe I just didn't see the emails, you know, that where he was demanding accountability. I don't know what that's about, but Jeffrey Epstein says, same as usual, just tougher. Peter Attia says, legally, any change.
Same as usual. As in, he was aware of the previous charges too, huh? Interesting.
Jeffrey Epstein, 0. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this whole, you got to provide therapy to, you know, these victims happened. I haven't seen it yet. I definitely could see it. But it's just kind of shocking. I just kind of don't buy it. Like the whole, is there any change legally? That more sounds like you're covering yourself. I mean, just to be honest. But maybe I could look past all of that if not for the thing we're about to see, which just in my mind is maybe the worst thing I've seen in the files. Not for its, explicitness. The amount of simping that people did for Jeffrey Epstein. Now they all say, oh, it was a personal mistake, blah, blah, blah. I regret it. I didn't look into it enough. But the level is just, you've never seen anything like it. So remember I said I read a book by Peter Attia. It was called Outlive, and he's supposed to be this doctor who knows a lot about longevity. So he writes it, and I picked it up. Because at the rate we're getting rid of these crimes, I need to live forever in order to try to stop some of these scams. But as I pick up this book, and one of the things in the book is Peter Attia kind of reflecting internally about how he's kind of been a bit, and I'm paraphrasing here, but a bit of a psycho in his life, and he needed to focus on family stuff. And so he it's almost a confessional of some embarrassing things in his life. And honestly, it comes off as very vulnerable, very self-reflective. He's this doctor telling other people what to do, but he's not a very good patient. That's kind of how it comes off. And one of the stories is awful. I won't go too much into it, but basically his son has this horrible medical emergency. It's described in this book like this. A few months ago, Tuesday, July 11th, 2017, that date is important. At 5:45 to be exact, I received a call from Jill, my wife. She was in an ambulance with our infant son. Now, again, I'm not gonna get into the details here because it's tragic, and I'm not trying to bring that into it. What is relevant is that Peter Attia talks about how he stayed in New York and didn't show up because he was, quote, busy with his important work. Even today, just thinking about what happened, I feel nauseous about my behavior. I can't believe I did that to
Oh my God,
family.
was he on the fucking island? Oh my God, does the timeline match him visiting the island? Oh my God, I didn't know this part. Oh fuck.
Now, at the time I read that and I was like, well, it's at least as good that you self-reflected on that. It's horrible, but, yeah, you were a bit of a psycho. But what's crazy, now we find out some of the important work, it's a little unclear, but some of the important work may have been Jeffrey Epstein, which is just, it's so dark to imagine. Remember, he says July 11th, 2017 is when this all happened. And then he says he did not come home to San Diego until Friday the following week, 10 days later. So July 11th, 2017, 2 days after this happens, he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein. And they seem to be coordinating about something. Sure, what time? Jeffrey Epstein, 9:30. Peter Attia responds, sure, I can come earlier. Also, if you have a hard stop at 10, let me know. You're hanging out with Jeffrey? I don't even know what to say. This is out of pocket. There's no explanation for this. I didn't see this in the response from Peter. Maybe he thinks he addresses it because he already admitted that was like scummy, but that is just. There's a reason that didn't make it in the book. Is what I'm trying to say. I didn't see that in the book when I read it. I didn't see. I was actually. One of the things I needed to do, my important work, was seeing or talking to Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that weird? That's the simping that I'm talking about, is these people love this guy. Or that's how it seems to me. What are all these rich and powerful people doing, protecting him, missing emergencies for Jeffrey, fawning over Jeffrey, asking for Jeffrey's harem? Saying their biggest problem is the life they lead is so outrageous they can't tell a soul. What is going on here? And is it true they all didn't know, right? Because, I'm reading these documents, and it's hard to say who exactly knew what, when. But I don't believe, remember, they're all denying it, I don't believe nobody.
I want to point something out here, but Attia is a Barry Weiss acolyte. And Barry Weiss, when this data dump came out and people were like, wait a minute, isn't he one of the new podcasters that you hired for CBS? Barry Weiss was defending keeping him on and straight up said, oh, it's just cancel culture nonsense to not go along with the hiring process for this wonderful individual that must remain at CBS News. I love Barry Weiss so much because she makes my job so easy. She's just consistently wrong. She's bad at her job. You couldn't wish for a better pro-Israel advocate. I don't want Israel to have competent propagandists. I want Israel to have Barry Weiss.
Knew, right? Clearly, some people knew what was going on, and there's all this kind of coded language in the files where they talk about this stuff almost in like a nudge kind of way. I mean, here's some Woody Allen stuff. He was in the files. He says his business office, if you can make out the check to me, it looks very
Woody
bad.
Allen? No. No, not Woody. Wow, that's surprising.
Because then it looks like a gift to me. He says that to Epstein. He says, I don't want to be one of your women, or should I say, girls. And what's that? Oh, how do we, come on, guys. Woody says, I would be much more.
Bro, there's literally an email between Jeffrey Epstein and Woody Allen where they're both like, yeah, we're pedophiles. Isn't that crazy? like they jokingly go, oh yeah, can't wait to go to the pedophilia conference in France. And then the other one's like, yeah, because we're pedophiles who love having sex with children, pretty much. I'm paraphrasing. Isn't that fucking insane? And then you still got motherfuckers being like, oh, dude, what kind of code words are they using? Are they using pizza? No, man, the code word is pedophilia and raping children. There's no code word. They just say it out loud.
More expensive than your girls, you wouldn't be able to afford me. Jeffrey responds, yes, the price to pay would be too high. Woody says, this will be a beautiful friendship. And then Jeffrey says, as long as I follow orders, smiley face. Woody Allen sends a message saying, Woody says the exact same thing, but in a dirtier way. Jeffrey responds, what did he say? Woody Allen, are you kidding? I can't put it in writing. I mean, no evidence, no evidence. How? Come on, I think I see a little bit of evidence. I'm squinting, but I think I can see a little bit of evidence. I mean, guys, like Jeffrey Epstein right here, where he's talking to a guy, he says, Paris with Woody, and the person responds, for le pedophile convention. And Jeffrey says, I think pedophile is the plural. I mean, no evidence. I mean, is that no evidence?
Motherfuckers will be in their emails being like, there's nothing like children. There's nothing I enjoy as much as nubile flesh. I love consuming it. And then people still turn around and they're like, wait a minute. Did they bring up cheese pizza at any point? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume that when they're talking about cheese pizza, it's most likely fucking cheese pizza, big dog. Because when they're talking about children, they just say children.
That's nothing. We don't even want to question these people. There's no investigations going on. So, yeah, it's honestly really sad to see how, look, I'm not saying
Barry Weiss's wife
people
is
around
in
the
there
world are
too.
having crazy consequences, but a few people are resigning, thank goodness. You know, a few people are at least facing a little bit of scrutiny, but here Elon Musk lays out the...
I think outside of Palestine, this was probably the other thing that I've consistently talked about nonstop, even though people looked at me kind of weird. And I guess they like kind of changed their tune after the Jeffrey Epstein suicide, quote unquote suicide, where people were like, okay, maybe there's more to this story. But yeah, this and like the anti-Zionism have been two of my major points of advocacy throughout the years. It's been an incredible moment of vindication, even though, you know, it's the events are horrifying.
Book, apparently for our guys, you know, we had...
OG HasanAbi has no. I once did an 8-hour Jeffrey Epstein analysis, and it was so long that YouTube completely blacklisted my channel, and I had to delete it. I uploaded 8 whole hours of going through the Epstein stuff that we knew of back in like 2018, 2019. And YouTube straight up, yeah, the Ep stream. YouTube straight up took it down. With Matt Chrisman, with Brace Belden of TrueAnon. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Noam Chomsky's wife calling Jeffrey Epstein a hero? Wait, what? You were a hero, Jeffrey. I just can't understand why Max has been doing all this to Noam for all these years and Deborah had been following Max's agenda. Wait, are they talking about, who are they talking about? Is it like Max Blumenthal? Wait, 5 hours of Jeffrey Epstein coverage you never asked for. Oh, this is it. It was initially 7 hours. Cut down to 5 hours. Then there was also this. So we're all in agreement that we think someone's going to kill Epstein before he gives up names, right? Any prison that doesn't put Epstein under 24/7 surveillance and solitary confinement right now is also responsible for him getting assassinated. I wrote that on my birthday, July 25th, 2019. Yeah, y'all think I'm pre-watch Piker new. Y'all think pre-watch Piker is a new thing, okay? It's been around. It's been around for so long, motherfuckers think I did it. When shit pops off.
Nothing. We deny everything.
Subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service to get tomorrow's news today. That's right. For a voluntary subscription of only $6 a month, you can support the show. That's the only way to support the show. You can also subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, now available on YouTube with a membership. That's right. We haven't figured out what the membership rewards are going to look like for YouTube, but you can subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service both on YouTube and also on Twitch. Tomorrow's news today.
We blame others. We just push the spotlight onto other people. And unfortunately, that's what you've seen the whole time from all the people in the files. You know, all of them say, oh, I was so happy these files came out. It's about shining accountability and justice for the victims, but I had nothing to do with it. Okay, so then where's the justice for the victims? So nobody, you know, all of you say somebody else had something to do with it, but everybody says nobody had anything to do with it. The FBI says they don't have any other, you know, investigations, any other kind of leads, despite the fact we have one of the procurers of the women just walking free, apparently, like no charges against him. Have we investigated him? I mean, it's just shocking how much the Epstein files show the powerful, how they protect their own, how so many of them knew what was going on, to the extent they found out later, a lot of them tried to protect Epstein, like literally make PR campaigns for his reputation. And this is a dark look at the state of the world, honestly, because Epstein happened a while ago, but the reason everyone cares is because there's other Epsteins around, right? There's other people evading accountability all the time. There's other people that this band of billionaires and power brokers and PR people, even lawmakers, they circle the wagons and protect their own to the point you can never get accountability for anything. So anyway, that's it. It's a hard look at the Epstein files, but it's one we needed to do. But I want to make the disclaimer once again that, look, I've tried to read people's individual denials where I could, but you should just assume everyone that we are talking about firmly denies any kind of criminal wrongdoing. They deny anything untowards about any kind of minors. And given the fact that our government doesn't seem to want to investigate anyone, I would just assume everybody here is completely clear. And so I want to get all those caveats in here because we are talking about some very powerful people with enormous means. And I don't want to be seen as I'm saying stuff. I'm reading the files. I'm giving my personal opinion. But ultimately, this is an indictment of our FBI and the people in power. And that's what I think the Epstein files have really shown us. This has been a long road. Can you believe it all started over here? And we have come all this way with all these files coming out. And it seems like the question is on the table. Are there going to be consequences?
Is there any chance that any of these individuals...
Why does he have to make this kind of disclaimer? Are you kidding me? Millions of people watch his videos. He already explained it. Do you see the 4chan post that was posted before Epstein's death that was publicly revealed, confirmed to be posted by a guard in his unit? Yes, I have. I remember it at the time. I remember all the conspiracies at the time. I think this is a crazy one.
Individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in relations with minors will be prosecuted. Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak.
I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband.
Oh my God, Melinda went on NPR. Oh my God, Melinda, my queen. Guys, nothing to see here. Deputy Attorney General, former defense attorney for Donald Trump, Todd Blanche, said, nothing to see here. It's not a crime to fucking party. All right?
Bill is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files. And there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
Well, let me say this. I think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him.
Liberal friends I was talking to say Epstein was just trafficking for his own enrichment and collecting blackmail for his own use, and thus not a State Department asset. American exceptionalism with the idea that our government would never work with someone like Epstein. Same reason why people think Israel controls America and not the other way around. Yeah. I love that shit, dude. So it's just an aberration that, like, Todd Blanche is currently defending all of the co-conspirators. You know? Totally random, totally unique, totally different than the ways in which the government normally operates.
No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those.
You the guy that went to a Diddy party? No, just wondering. No, that was your dad. I'm your daddy. You're mistaking me for your dad, your father. He went to the Diddy party and he got his back blown out. Remember when the people that were doing the Hasan went to a Diddy party bullshit were also claiming that I was on Epstein's Lolita Express? That's real, by the way. They straight up tried to say that I was on Epstein's jet. And people literally were like, dog, like the ages don't line up. Like, what the fuck are you saying? This is why I asked, because I don't know. Brother, are you a groomable adult? Like, is that what you're saying here? You're like, I'm really stupid, so I have to ask these questions.
Those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. But I have moved on from that. I purposely
remember the white party you
pushed
attended?
it away, and I moved on.
Yeah.
I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place.
Tech don't genuinely believe your private jet pic might actually have been related to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, remember when we found out that Rape Tone was doing all this stuff specifically to disparage me so that he could continue farming an audience? Yeah. Rape Tone. He did this in a court of law. Like, he openly admitted in a court of law that he did a right-wing pivot and started farming content against me. Including but not limited to slander such as this. With the express purpose of gaining an audience of dumbass dullards. Isn't that cool? Isn't that funny? He said he failed the vibe check. A civil case is a vibe check? Yeah, you failed the vibe check so hard, the judge finds you liable of rape and takes away your guns in the state of Texas for a decade. Rape Tone doesn't realize, like, he's going to get another fucking restraining order if he keeps this shit up. You know what I mean? He admitted to defamation in court. That's how stupid he is. Yeah. I do love shit like that. When these guys will just, like, straight up go to court and be like, yeah, as a rapist, I had to farm the dumbest people on the planet, Your Honor. And obviously, the dumbest people on the planet happen to be right-wing. It's not my fault. You know? Like, that's quite literally what he did. He was like, I have no other option. I have to get even dumber than I currently am. I have to lean into these fucking morons because these fucking morons want that slop, that unlimited slop. Also, Your Honor, I have a tiny dick. Incredible stuff. I'm schizophrenic. I have a tiny penis. And I love right-wing slop because right-wingers are so fucking stupid that as long as I just say Hasan is stupid, Hasan is bad, Hasan is evil, they just keep watching my videos. It requires zero effort, Your Honor. You should try it too, honestly. You should try it one time to see how fucking easy it is. And then you'll understand why I'm doing it, Your Honor. Dog, the Epstein files got released. Who cares about Rape Tone? Well, first of all, take a day off. My least favorite type of chatter who's like, I can't believe after your fucking 3 hours of coverage on the Epstein files, you sidestepped for a brief moment to make a joke. Okay? Like I had a genocide survivor that I interviewed for an hour and a half here not that long ago. Bro doing streamer drama during this, what a hack. Wait, hold on. Give me this motherfucker's logs in other chats. Again, a straight up fucking 5-minute sidestep. I've talked more about dumbass naysayers in the chat now. Someone give me his logs.
In life. So whatever questions remain.
Most of my normie friends that you know fall for this narrative of you being an elite diddler, unfortunately. Okay, you need to get new friends, big dog. I'm gonna keep it $150 with you. If you have friends that are unironically believing that shit, they are some of the stupidest people of all fucking time. Okay? You know, they might not be salvageable.
There of what I can't even begin to know all of it. Those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck that was there.
I have to put more words to the muck for context for our listeners. The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to.
Isn't Melinda Gates just as guilty as the rest of them? No, actually, Melinda Gates is one of the few people that actually came across unscathed from this entire process, because she literally was like, I'm breaking up with you, I'm divorcing you, and then I'm also fucking outing. Not only am I divorcing you, Bill Gates, but I'm also outing you for why I'm divorcing you. And at the time I thought she was doing expert PR maneuvering. Like, I thought it's fair to use this as an opportunity to just like pull the ripcord. And because I didn't know the extent of Bill Gates's like malignant behavior. And we didn't, for the record. Until this last batch, we did not know what Bill Gates had done. Like, we didn't know the extent. We had suspicions. Guys, we had suspicions that Bill Gates had done some fuck shit, but we did not know the extent of the depravity. And at the time I said, like, I think Melinda Gates is doing, a good thing here, because she did straight up, Hasan not believing women, shaking my head. No. I didn't say I didn't believe her. I said that given the limited amount of information that we had about Bill Gates' involvement with Jeffrey Epstein at the time, I'll be honest, I thought Bill Gates was too much of a nerd. Like, I'll say it. Out of all of these people, I knew about Elon, I knew about Kimball. I talked extensively about a lot of these, like, clients and allies. But the two people that shocked me when I first found out about it were Noam Chomsky, obviously, and Bill Gates. And it blew my fucking... I mean, even Stephen Hawking makes sense to a certain degree, right? Even though it's unexpected. You're like, physically, how is this possible? But he apparently was getting around. But Bill Gates, I did not think was just... I never would have thought that he would be around. He'd be constantly doing that shit. So much so that he got an STD and gave it to his wife, like ex-wife. It's fucking insane. Yeah, bro. Stephen Hawking was freaky. Or Dawkins? Wait. No, the dude in the wheelchair. The galaxy guy.
details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news
Sorry,
articles
black hole guy, whatever.
with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right?
Oh yeah, Richard Dawkins was also photographed next to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know what level of involvement he had though. Yeah, bro, they had a submarine custom outfitted for Stephen Hawking on the island, bro. Real craziness. Brother, look at this. That's on Little St. James, dude.
And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and
Bro, they made the fucking island ADA compliant so that he could do predation. Do you fucking understand? Do you know, like what the fuck goes on in someone's mind where they're like, I'm in this condition, like I still got to do some fuck shit. I got to figure out. Can you make the island ADA compliant for my pedophilic needs? Pedophilic needs is crazy. I'm sorry. That's a wild sequence of events that took place. Is that ableist? Like, am I being anti-woke when I say like, I never would have thought that he would be doing that kind of stuff? He doesn't, quadriplegic says he doesn't represent the wheelchair community. Yeah, I don't think he does. Yeah, it's crazy because then we investigated a little bit further and found out he had allegations with his caregivers beforehand. It's ableist to assume Stephen Hawking couldn't be a rapist. No, it's actually more woke to hold him accountable. Being disabled doesn't excuse you from crimes. Yeah, I'm not even excusing him for his crimes. I'm just saying, like,